Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, let's talk about a very important aspect of manifesting, and that is proximity. Now, a lot of people don't think about this, but it's very important when you're trying to manifest. It's all part of having, quote, channels, and proximity is a channel. If you want to affect someone, meet someone, be successful, whatever it is, you cannot do that unless you're in some sort of proximity. And then there's the degrees of proximity. What was that? The 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, whatever that was in the ancient days. I don't know. You don't hear that much anymore. But the point is what is your connection to what is happening? Now, I've heard people say, well, I'm going to attack someone here, whatever, that they don't know. I heard this during the Gulf War where people wanted to attack bin Laden, or even afterwards. Well, I mean, you don't know bin Laden. Now, you're connected by many degrees away, meaning the fact if you're an American, you've been affected by the trade centers being blown up supposedly by him and his Confederates. Probably use a bad example, but we'll just use that for the time being because nobody really knows. Well, he probably wasn't connected. That's another story. But the point is that let's go by the urban myth. And so the whole idea is that you would then be very far distance affecting him. So this means it would be very difficult, meaning you'd have to go through a lot of preparatory steps if you really want to get any effects there. Meditating on him, connecting to his energies, getting pictures. There's a whole procedure to do this, which is a lot of training unto itself. And connecting to your particular target, good, bad, or indifferent, that you want to influence is essential. So if you're trying to influence someone, you need to connect with them, and this is an entire process, which I will have information out there, some little booklet on that in the future. But if you don't know someone, you can't attract them to you, plain and simple. You have to be connected in some way. If you want a stock to go up, well, you really have to own that stock if you want to have major influence on it. You have to have a commitment. You have to have some sort of energetic connection, or you're going to have to spend a lot of time connecting with the energy. And so this is very important to understand that if you want to manifest something, you have to be connected to it. The closer you are to it, the better. Now, this is extremely true when it comes to relationships or people in general. Trying to draw in somebody you don't know, thinking that you're going to draw in some movie star that you are then going to use the power of magic to meet and get to know. Well, if you know that person, if you're in Hawaii, and I don't mean personally, if you're in Hollywood, work in the movie industry, you can generate energies to bang into that person. So you have to be in the proximity to do that. If you live in Mississippi, you ain't got no chance in hell, mister. So the whole idea is just not going to work if that person lives in Hollywood. So anyone you want to influence, you have to be connected to, and the stronger you're connected to them, the closer you are to that person physically, etc., the more possibilities you will have of affecting them. Now, you can possibly draw information from someone by connecting to them in this kind of astral connection and bringing back information, but you're kind of targeting them. You make a connection with someone when you get a certain coordinates of where they are, like remote viewers do. But I don't believe remote viewers do very well at all. I think that's a lot of government fantasy and a lot of BS to sucker a lot of people in, to spend a lot of money, and for the to develop and find people of power. So I'm not so sure about any of that, because when you start to chart these people, it isn't true. And why is that? Well, all you have is a coordinate. The connection you have is that coordinate, so you're able to work at a certain degree. And if you train yourself, you'll be able to go to these dry targets, so to speak, and get more information from them. But if you're not connected to it stronger than that, the information tends to be poor. I mean, it's pretty much got down to the point that there's a 60% success rate with remote viewing, which is only, 50-50. This is 60-50, 60-40. So you get a 10% edge there, and that may be very accurate. People are claiming 70, 80, etc. But, if that's the case, things would be a lot different than they are. But let's not get into too many details there, but it is a way to represent it. So, if you're connected to something, you're going to be able to work better if you understand it. Now, one of the things with all psychic understanding, when they've done this with famous psychics around the world, one of the things they pointed out, which is very interesting in reading psychic cases, was the fact that psychics who grow up in the city have great trouble identifying a tree. Oh, there's trees there. And you're looking, let's say you're looking for someone and they're by, you think they're by a tree. And you tell somebody, well, there's trees next to them. Trees? Well, there are lots of different trees and different types of trees. So if you were a country person, you would be able to identify that tree, and that would be a much bigger hit for you. And if you were trying to send somebody there, let's say you're looking for a lost person, go to the trees. Well, there's a lot of trees. What kind of trees are there? But what do you know? You're from the Bronx. Hey, what are you talking about? A tree's a tree. So the whole idea is that these are the type of things that you actually have problems with. And this is very interesting. I don't think anybody thinks of that. And I didn't occur to me until I read this in a book. So, about the famous Dutch psychic, which I have a review on this channel as well. His book was very fascinating, very documented person. But he was not a city person, so he had trouble identifying things in cities. So if you were to get an isolated person and they were to identify something in a city, well, they'd have trouble identifying that. So they can describe things as best of their abilities, but if they're not familiar with it, they're going to possibly get something 100% correct, yet their description of it is so poor that a person who is, let's say, a city dweller, and they were describing a particular street or business, well, they can describe it perfectly. But the problem is that it wouldn't be registered that way because the city person who's getting the information doesn't understand that, because that's not very clear. Think about that. Isn't that very interesting and something to take into consideration? So, if you're a city person and you say that person is near a tree, what tree? What type of tree? Now, you can describe the tree to a degree and maybe get some identification from it if you can give that clear of information. But, it's not in your knowledge stream. If it's not in your knowledge stream, you're going to have trouble describing it. Isn't that interesting? Some people can just describe things. It's a square box. It's got a handle on it. You don't really know what it is. You're just describing it, which is typical of remote viewers, that then somebody else looks at it and says, well, yeah, that's a submarine hatch. So, because he knew what it was or could identify it. Now, you may have never known what a submarine hatch is, but making a crude drawing of it, somebody else identified it. Maybe that person doesn't know what a submarine hatch is and says, I don't get this. It's some sort of door. So the whole idea is, what does that mean? So these are the problems with identifying things. But let's get back to, it's part of proximity and knowledge base. But if you're trying to achieve something, draw something to you, you have to be actively involved in it. If you're going to be successful in the stock market, you have to be working with stocks. You have to know about it. You have to feel the energies from it. You're just not going to say, well, I'm going to get rich in the stock market. Well, it's much more complicated than that. Now, proximity has to do with everything, but this is a typical problem when you're trying to meet someone. And as I was mentioning, targeting people. So if you want to target a specific person, well, you're going to have to get out there and have a way of them coming to you. So you're not going to meet somebody sitting on your sofa drinking Coke and watching the hillbillies, the Beverly Hillbillies. You're not going to meet people. So you're going to have to go out and create channels or proximities to people. Or you're going to have to do something that brings them to you. Go online, join a dating club, whatever that means. Now you're creating proximity. And when you do that, you're now creating a connection. So you can then start doing rituals, empowering yourself, tuning your consciousness radionic machine to drawing the right person to you. And then when you go to a place where you are putting yourself in proximity, and that can be online, you will all of a sudden be directed to the right people. Maybe you'll do, what's real typical is you click on the wrong thing. I do this all the time. I click on wrong stuff and say, ooh, gee, that's kind of interesting. And I find all sorts of things because I've clicked wrong, put the wrong search terms into places like Amazon or eBay. And weird stuff comes up and I say, gee, that's kind of interesting. I could use that. That's a great tool. This was because I was in that proximity. I was in eBay looking for things, and all of a sudden I found some unique things. Why? You're in proximity. Very important. And this is very, very true with actual meeting of people. So if you want to target someone, you have to be in that proximity, or anything else you want. This is another form of channel. Now, I was doing this, of course, when I was very young, in my early 20s. I'm not sure if I was even 20. Was the fact that I was extremely attracted to Morgan Fairchild, a very beautiful woman who happens to live in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. Now, I didn't have any contacts there to any great degree, kinda, but I really did. Because I used to go to Hollywood and Beverly Hills all the time. I would go to clubs there, I would go to restaurants, I'd go in the town and buy things, clothing, etc. All the things that are specialty, particularly in Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, and other places, you could go to. I used to go to a lot of restaurants in those areas that you can go to. And in the 80s and late 70s, this was before a lot of people were separated. Now they have private rooms where everybody goes in because they don't want the peasants bothering them. But in the late 70s, people were, and it's good for the restaurant, to be seated in the restaurant. And then everybody could see you. And then that is publicity. And you would go back and say, yeah, the saloon in Beverly Hills, I just saw whomever in there, Jack Nicholson. And other people that you'll see in certain restaurants. So it's very good for the restaurant, and many restaurants tend to be owned by celebrities as well in Hollywood. It's a great way to make money. People want to come and see you, and they'll pay to do that, and a fairly high price. So a lot of celebrities had their own restaurants and in Beverly. So you would see them walking on the street all the time. I've seen many, many people, particularly at that time, and even today, if you spend time walking around Beverly Hills, going to Saks Fifth Avenue there, etc., you will find in the stores, and you will see people constantly driving on the roads, etc. So what I did with that time is that I started to see, well, let me try. This is when I first was starting magic, and I said, well, let me see what I can draw to me. So I did rituals to draw her particularly to me. Now, of course, it's unlikely that that even if an opportunity presented itself, that these people will be very open to you. But, a lot of people create their own openings and surprisingly get contact with people. Particularly if you're a beautiful girl and you meet a celebrity, well, everybody's open to a beautiful girl. It's not really the other way around if you're a beautiful girl meeting someone. But what happened? What happened was very interesting over the next 6 months. So I'd be going to these places, and I used to go out to the movie theaters in a particular place called Westwood, where they have a lot of the Hollywood premieres. And they have great theaters there, old, beautiful theaters from the 1920s. Great, great theaters at those times, right next to UCLA, the college. And it's all in that area. So what happens is that I would, who did I see walking on the street but Morgan Fairchild with her boyfriend? I said, well, isn't that interesting? And they were a fair difference away, but what are you supposed to do? Run up there and scream at them? Very, very interesting. Then I was driving down Wilshire, I believe it was Wilshire Boulevard, and I'm sitting at a stoplight, and who did I see to my right going into a large building, which happened to be a bank at the bottom? Morgan Fairchild. So this is how these things work, because there's proximity. Now, being young, stupid, and everything else, I didn't follow through on these things the way I should have, but it's very interesting, and I got two other very similar instances of that where I was passing by and saw this person. I kept seeing her for several months at a fair distance, but it's unlikely that a little 20-year-old going up to someone like that would have gotten anywhere, but you never know. That's where magic comes in as well. But of course, everybody's so afraid to approach everyone. But this is what proximity means. You're bringing somebody in. This person lives in that area. They go to these places. It's not unusual. You're not in Mississippi. Well, I haven't seen my movie star girl at all. I've been trying for 15 years. You're in Mississippi. Nobody goes there. So it's simple as that. There is no proximity, and it is near impossible to work. So if you have proximity, you have that. So then you can meet people. But if let's say you want to meet people in that industry in general, if you're in the industry, no matter how far away from the industry, meaning the fact that maybe you're a film editor in Burbank, you may stumble into someone that you want to meet because you've done the rituals. You're in the industry, you have a proximity that still can happen because everybody's moving around. People are going places, stores, restaurants, etc. And of course, again, you have to create your proximity. I was driving in those towns. I was going to where these people normally would go to. And so the whole idea is that will you bang into them? Well, you very likely can. So because you're in the proximity. If you're in the business, you even have a better opening because you have a reason to meet someone and may see them in some sort of studio parking lot, at some studio commissary. I mean, they're all in these places, and they also go to a bunch of restaurants that are near the studios there, which there are many. And if you go to those places, which aren't talked too much about, you will see people commonly. And if you're a person who does some sort of empowerments, well, maybe you'll see a person that you wanted to see because you've created the proximity. So the farther away from you are, the less commitment you have, the less likely it's going to happen. You need a connection. You need an emotional connection, or you have to be very good at drawing people to you. And that means you surround yourself with the energy, put you in a proximity area, and you never know who is going to pop in. But that goes with everything. But it's very interesting as well, doing this and seeing what happens. So yeah, and I also spent a lot of time in Malibu, where they all go to, and you bump into people there all the time as well. You see them everywhere. Now, you can potentially target people by doing that and meeting them. Now, it doesn't have to be for a relationship. It could be directors, it could be producers, if you want to meet those kind of people, or just interesting or pretty people in general. So you have to be in the proximity or nothing's going to happen. Nobody's coming to your door. Nobody's going to turn their computer on for you. You have to present yourself. You have to be there, and you have to be active. Once you do that, you start creating these different levels of proximities. And needless to say, you want to be at level 1, which is direct contact as much as possible. As you move back from that, things become tougher and tougher. But that's a very important key. Are you in proximity to whatever you want to manifest? That could be money. That could be whatever it is that you're seeking. But you have to make yourself in proximity with it. You have to get involved with the energy. And to a certain degree, people do this if you're looking for a specialty item. Let's say you want to buy a 1967 Mustang. Well, you don't look in the Toyota lot. You're going to look in the Ford lot. You're going to go to car shows. You're going to look on the internet for that. You're creating a proximity for that. Now, if you want something rare, well, you're probably not going to see it the first time. Maybe not the first 10 times. But what you're doing is you're putting the manifesting energies out there, and it will pop up in front of you. You're drawing it to you. How is that happening? Well, sometimes people will just do general things where cars are involved, and lo and behold, here comes the Mustang you've been looking for. And it's not even a Ford event. It's not even a classic car event, but there is the car you're looking for. Or it could be on a car lot somewhere that you stumble into it because, why? Oh, I decided to walk to this place. And what was there? A car lot, which you never paid much attention to because it was a Subaru lot. Well, I'm not looking for no Subarus. Where's my Mustang? So the whole idea is that But here you are, because used cars are used cars. People turn in things. Here is the car sitting on the lot. So this is what happens. Why? Because you're in proximity. Without proximity, you have nothing. If you want wealth, well, you better be around money. You want to make money? Well, be around money. You want to be good at something? Well, hang around someone who's good at that. You want to play golf well? Well, hang around golf pros, golf clubs, all this stuff. Well, you're going to find people and information there that you can't find anywhere else. Why? Proximity. It's the same old story, and this is one of the major keys, and it can go from all sorts of levels depending on your personal level of empowerment, of what you can draw to you. But you can't draw anything to you if you're not in proximity of it. So something has to happen in your life to make things happen. And this can happen in, as I always say, not only is proximity, but you have to be aware of your proximity. If you're doing manifesting rituals, you have to make sure that you are active out there. And as I say so many times, pay attention to the little signs, because that's how things are going to manifest in your life. Generally, things don't come and hit you on the head, knock you down, or flash in front of your face. Most things happen to the side, to the back of you. You have to sense, well, what is this? What does this mean? Be open to be brought whatever you're trying to manifest, instead of being so centered on your own world, so internalized that you're not paying attention to what you need to get from the outer world. Well, I'm not concerned with the outer world. Well, you have to be if you're trying to manifest, because you never know what one thing is going to lead to another. And this usually comes through the proximity. Walking by a newsstand, maybe you'll see something there. Going by a bookstore, maybe you're looking to invest in stocks, and what's in the window? How to make $1 billion by investing in stocks. Well, that should tell you something. You just manifested the first step of your wealth. But if you're walking by there, listen to your tunes, thinking about garbage, well, you're not going to get it, are you? Yet you were given the first major step to make your manifestation come true. But you weren't paying attention. So every leaf that falls, every wind that blows, everything that comes to you is potentially a next lead to something else. And if you are trying to manifest and you are putting the time into it, you've set your radionic machines, you've got those humming to draw to you, you've done your rituals, whatever it is you're doing, your visualizations, your meditations, all the things that you should be doing to create these energies around you so you become a magnet for this, well, you have to take that magnet somewhere else to draw it to you. And this could be virtual to a degree. So maybe you want to wander around the internet looking for opportunities. Well, there's an awful lot out there, and 99.9% of it are cons and junk. So you understand that, but you're empowered. Your proximity of hunting through the internet will bring you to the proper opportunities for you. So that's one of the major keys, if not the most important key to manifesting. You have it now. Go out, use it, and manifest. Until next time.